Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in our Capitol Bureau, Sacramento. We're joined by Bob Huff. He is a member of the California State Senate, candidate for the Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles County, which did not see El Nino arrive to the extent that we had hoped.
Correct.
Is that fair?
That's fair. You know, and it's interesting about weather forecasters, they like to tell us what's happening the week after and they can't do it, but when you look long term, it's really a problem. They figured we were going to get drenched in Southern California, wouldn't be going north, wouldn't have much snowpack, but it's just the opposite.
Literally. I mean, it literally is just the opposite. Northern California saw some beautiful rain, some beautiful snowstorms, but what we also know is that the voters of California had passed Proposition 1, and that was the bond that allowed for expenditure of $7.545 billion for projects, including $2.7 billion for storage. Right. Look, I know it takes time, but I haven't heard a peep about, I haven't seen a shovel. Am I wrong, Mr. Huff?
No shovels.
Yeah,
there have been a few peeps,
there
but
have
they've
been peeps,
been pretty
but no
muted.
shovels.
Yeah.
So what's going on, sir? We were very generous. Over, about 2/3 of us said yes.
Well, anytime you have a government project, it takes a while to get implemented. So we're hopeful by the end of the year there will be some decisions made that will move forward. Where some of the peeps we are hearing, and I hope there's no legs on this, is that the Sites Reservoir is not going to happen.
What? I mean, that's supposed to be top 3 projects: Shasta, Sites, and Temperance Flat.
Absolutely.
And is Sites in the Antelope Valley or near the, where is Sites?
No, Sites is sort of Central California, off in the foothills, and there's already, excuse me, that's Temperance Flat. Sites is up in Colusa County, as I recall, but it's up north. It's non-riparian, so that's why it is more attractive to those who want to protect riparian habitat. You pump it in, it flows out, you generate electricity on the out, and you're not, it's not like Diamond Valley Reservoir in Southern California. They just dammed up a canyon without a stream in it, and then they pump it in and take it out when they need it.
But what's frustrating for so many of us, and this is not a political issue in a lot of ways, we saw these rains come, and when it's snowpack, that's great. It stays on the, on the mountain, and then hopefully when the melt comes, we haven't had the melt yet, we can capture it. But with rain, we saw all this rain just kind of flow out to the ocean. And look, it's a balance, we know that. But could you give us some numbers on what happened with that lost water?
Because we have so much rain coming in Northern California, and 2/3 of the precipitation falls in Northern California. That's why we have this vast plumbing system to send it down south, because we have 2/3 of the population down there. So currently, our largest reservoir is, whether it's Shasta, Folsom, hit this benchmark earlier. That's not a large one, but Oroville, they're in flood control stage, meaning they've reached the level now where there's storage, and now they have to retain enough capacity if that late storm comes in. And in doing so, they're releasing 109,000 acre-feet per day out to the delta.
Okay, which may be fine if it's to the delta, but what's happening once it hits the delta?
It goes out to the ocean.
It's not captured in the delta.
No, because we're only moving about 4,000 acre-feet per day through the system, because we have the gnarly little delta smelt and other things that impact how much we can actually transfer down south.
So where do we go from here? Because, look, the frustration level is hitting a stage where you have folks that have done, up and down the state, an outstanding job conserving water. I mean, it looks like overall we hit our mark of 25%. Some months better, some months worse, but if you average it out, and and I talk to folks and they just feel as if they're getting just beaten down on this.
Well, they are, because the less water that you actually pump through a system, you still have the overhead, so you get paid more for the water you're actually using.
And literally, our water bills are going up. I mean, and the LADWP, you're looking to run, you're running for Board of Supervisors. That is a city agency, but be that as it may. I mean, they're looking to increase rates, and it's economics, like you said. Even though we're using less, overhead is the same.
Every water district's doing that.
And so what's the answer?
A lot of the things found in the water bond that we did, but that includes, you got to have above ground storage to get the water when it's available, because then if you've cleaned up the aquifers, you can inject it down. It takes a while. You got to capture it first, then you can slowly trickle it down, and you can do all these other things, but you got to start by getting it. So above ground storage is essential, and then there's a lot of other little components to making it available, but running it out to the ocean is not one of those.
But do you feel as if, and please, be as candid as possible, that we are moving too slowly on the bond and spending on the bond? Am I expecting too much when I say I don't see a shovel after the bond passed, I guess about a year and a half ago? Am I expecting too much?
Yes.
I am.
Because it is a government agency overseeing it. Are you frustrated? Rightfully so? Yeah, but the wheels of the government just don't move as fast as when you're in private business. You got a bottom line, you got shareholders, you got a whole lot of things. Government sole sources things. So it's a whole different dynamic.
But is there a CEQA issue? Is there a Dogger issue? All these acronyms are flowing in my brain.
Well, the California Environment Quality Act certainly comes into play, but when you look at sites, and I may have misspoken before, Temperance Flat is the one that may not get built, but sites likely will. And they were most of the way through, as I understand, on their environmental studies already. So that one's like shovel ready, as they like to say. But even there, it takes a while to just work through the process and this vast bureaucracy we've created that oversees water.
But what's really shocking when you look at Shasta, Sites, and Temperance, even if we build all those dams or build them up, whatever it may be, still not enough.
Right. I should clarify, Shasta was not in that. We studied that, but it was not receiving any money to raise capacity in that water bond. There's been another...
Shasta gets no money in the water bond.
Shasta gets no money, so it's really $2.7 billion would be what the state match would be, assuming you're getting locals are paying, the users and other stuff, but that's estimated to do the Temperance Flat and the sites.
Right, because I believe, so I'm clear, Shasta is federal, is that
correct?
And so we got to talk to the feds?
But we can spend money on it. We've done that before. And in fact, you may remember this little high-speed rail bond.
I've heard of it,
I was a proponent to take that and put it into water infrastructure. Shasta was one of those that we would have augmented.
What's happening with that?
Well, the price for gathering signatures went up horrifically. So we're on volunteer signatures right now, and if we can't get it by the deadline, then we push it off to 2018. So it still goes forward, but it just became too burdensome with the amount of resources we had available.
So I look a few months ahead. I pray for rain, but I have to think that when this season is over, we will call 2015-16 the 5th year of the drought. Am I right?
I think you are, because particularly in Southern California, our reservoirs are not up to level like they are in Northern California. And we don't know what next year holds, right? So you have to presume you're not going to get the rain until you're proven wrong. And so I think we're still going to be conserving. We're still going to be paying a lot more money for that. And we're still going to be wishing that the government was moving faster to build the reservoirs.
So what about the Delta, though? I mean, Governor Brown has kind of been to and fro on the Delta, and it doesn't seem to cut Democrat, Republican. It cuts a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it cuts a lot of different ways. If you're talking about the twin tunnels, I do think that's essential, because right now, were that in place, we'd be able to move a lot more water to Southern California where we have storage capacity. I think just as important, if we are getting climate change, if the oceans are going to rise, that area is going to be underwater, and it's going to be salt water. You can't push fresh water through salt water unless you've created some kind of a system, like a canal through there. To do that is very expensive as well.
So do we anticipate that the Delta project, after, I don't know, 30, 40 years, may actually happen?
It has to happen sometime. For water reliability, either through the scenario that we have right now or the scenario of rising oceans, we have to do it.
Let's presume you're victorious and you join the Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles County. What can a supervisor do on water issues? Because there's a lot of power in boards of supervisors, but is there enough in terms of water?
Sometimes what you have is the bully pulpit. If you can get 5 supervisors to represent a population, a population larger than 42 states, you might have a little bit of clout there. So I see that as how it's working. There's a lot of constituents there that support a lot of senators, a lot of assembly members, a lot of Congress members. So you've got a lot of ears out there that you can speak to, and they can hopefully help motivate the change.
But it really is, in the final analysis, a state and federal issue?
It is. We do have a lot of stormwater that we're responsible for, and we can do our part to help clean that up, to inject it down. But it's a complicated situation. Okay,
his name is Bob Huff. He is the former GOP leader in the California State Senate. He is still in the State Senate, of course, and he is a member, or he is running for the Board of Supervisors in LA County. I'm Brad Pomerance, Local Edition.